We came prepared to make progress and respond to concrete action by Iran. We set out our respective positions in what were detailed, tough and frank exchanges. After 5 plenary sessions and several bilateral meetings, we have begun to tackle the critical issues. However, it remains clear that there are significant gaps between the substance of the two positions.
A little confusing, we know. That was the European Union's foreign policy chief, but the important part was there at the end, where she announced the breakdown of high-level talks between Tehran and the West over Iran's nuclear program. Lower-level talks could resume next month. While Iran insists that its nuclear program is peaceful, many believe Tehran is simply stretching out the talks to get more time to develop a nuclear weapon. So where do the U.S. and Israel go from here? Dori Gold is a former Israeli ambassador to the UN and former foreign policy advisor to Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who is the current president of the Jerusalem Center for Public Affairs and joins us live. Thank you, sir, for your time today.
Pleasure.
All right, what do you make of the fact that the talks have essentially gone nowhere, and yet we have something else on the calendar, maybe lower-level talks? Is there any progress, any benefit to continuing down this road?
Well, the burden of proof was on Iran to show that they're serious, because we have a record of Iranian behavior in past negotiations. Frankly, the Iranians have been engaged in concealment and deception. Concealment because in the past they hid major nuclear facilities like the enrichment plants in Natanz and in Fordow near Qom. They hid them from the West until the West discovered them, even though that was contrary to their signed agreements, one called the Safeguards Agreement. Now, in terms of deception, the Iranians, every time the IAEA, that's the International Atomic Energy Agency, sent inspectors, they would do things like remove the tiles in rooms where their work had been done so you wouldn't be able to do swipes and catch them involved in radioactive operations, or digging out whole areas of a particular plant in Lavizan where they had weaponization work. So they have been involved in hiding their work and deceiving the West. And frankly, I've been concerned that if the Iranians sign an agreement on a Monday, by Thursday they're going to try and figure out how to get out of it. The fact that you haven't reached an agreement with them is not surprising.
The talks with Iran have continued through various administrations. Is it time for this administration to admit it's not working and move on to another phase?
Well, I mean, that seems to be the case from what the spokesmen of the talks are saying. You simply have gaps that are unbridgeable. Look, what the Iranians want the United States to do is recognize their right to enrich uranium. That right is not in the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. That right doesn't exist anywhere. They don't have to enrich uranium in order to have electric plants from nuclear reactors. It's a totally unnecessary right to have because, frankly, they don't even have any operating nuclear reactors to produce electricity except one which the Russians supply the fuel for. So what they're looking for is nuclear weapons. That's clear as day to anybody who's been monitoring what's going on in Iran, and it's time for them to come clean. If they don't, you've got to tell them what they've done.
Is Israel prepared to act militarily with or without U.S. backing at this point?
You know, I don't think it's proper for me as a former official to speak about operational military matters. But, you know, Israel will do what's necessary to defend its population. A nuclear Iran is a threat to Israel, but you know something? It's a threat to our Arab neighbors. It's a threat to Bahrain, because don't forget, the Iranians claim Bahrain is their territory. It's a threat to Saudi Arabia. It's a threat to the whole Sunni Arab world. And you know something? It's a threat to the United States, because don't forget, just a few months ago, the Iranians were preparing a high casualty attack in Washington, D.C. in order to kill the Saudi ambassador and anybody, U.S. senators included, who would be sitting with him.
Excellent point. Ambassador Dori Gold, thank you, sir, very much for your